Welcome to Sew.Maddee, the sewing channel where I teach you how to sew. In today's episode, we're going to be running through how to thread your machine, to change your needle and adjust your stitch settings. This one runs in conjunction with my ultimate sewing guide, which you can find linked in the description below. And at the end of the tutorial, I'll be showing you how to sew up your very first pattern. So let's get into it. So the first step in learning how to thread your machine is to load your bobbin. So we're going to go ahead and pop our spool of thread onto our spool pin, followed by the spool holder, and grab that thread and go over to the left through the tension discs, feel that one click, and then over to the right. We're going to thread that thread through the hole that is on the top of your bobbin. And once that one's done, you can go ahead and press your spool winder to the right, and that will activate the winding mechanism to start loading the bobbin. Then you're going to go ahead and slowly press on your foot pedal, just to check that everything is working fine before you press foot flat to the floor. Once your bobbin is full, the machine will begin to make a different sound than it was before, and your bobbin will no longer continue to spin. Make sure that you stop pressing on the foot pedal now, as continuing to press on the foot pedal will wear out your motor. Now that our bobbin is loaded, we're going to go ahead and insert the bobbin into the machine. So we're going to push on the right little lever to pop the lid off. We're going to go ahead and make a P with our bobbin, the shape of the thread, and then we're going to pop that one in, thread along the thread guides all the way to the left. So now we're going to go ahead and thread our machine. So to start off with, I'm going to get you to pop your presser foot up. We're going to put the spool on the spool pin with the spool holder, and then we're going to take that thread around to the left and behind. You're going to feel that one click, and then we're going to thread it down, around, up to the right, and then back down and around to the left. Once you get to this part, you're going to thread the thread in the top thread guide above the needle, and then we're going to pull down our automatic threader. We're going to thread across to the left and around, underneath, past the front of the needle, and behind the guide at the back. Then you can go ahead and bring your needle down and back up again to collect the bobbin thread. For this part, you will need to be holding the top thread. Now give the top thread a light tug and the bobbin thread should come through. Firstly, we're going to remove the thread from the eye of the needle, and then I'm going to get you to find the screwdriver that came with your kit. Once you have the screwdriver, we're going to go ahead and start twisting the right screw towards yourself until it becomes loose, and then we're going to slide the needle down and out. Now we're going to go ahead and select the needle. So generally an 80 or a 90 is perfect for most projects. And a quick tip, the white section of the needle packet can fold down. Just having a look at the top of the needle here, you can notice that there is a flat part and then a dome shape. So we're popping the flat part towards the back of the machine. We're going to pop the presser foot down to make it easier to get it in. So we pop it all the way up. We're going to twist the screw with our fingers and then further tighten it with the screwdriver. In this section, I'll be walking you through how to adjust your stitch settings. So firstly, on the left, we have your stitch selection. Then in the center is your stitch width, which is how wide the stitch goes. And then lastly, we have the stitch length, which is how long the stitches are. The first stitch we're going to practice is a straight stitch with a 2.2 millimeter length. This next one is a straight stitch with a 5 millimeter length. And we're going to use stitch pattern 10, which is a zigzag. We're going to do that one 5 millimeters wide and 1.5 millimeters long. This next one is going to be the zigzag again, 5 mil wide and 5 mil long. And last of all, we're going to do the zigzag 1.5 wide, 5 long. Your practice stitches should look something like this. Go ahead and label them. This part of the video, we're going to go ahead and organize the pattern. So it comes with 3 pages. But for the video today, I'm going to get rid of the 3rd page and we're going to cut the fabric on fold. So I'm going to get you to go ahead and grab a ruler and a pencil, and we're just going to draw a line on the right side. I'm going to use that line as a guide to cut along. Once you have done that, you can go ahead and join the pattern pieces together, making a perfect square, or a diamond in this case. And then I'm going to get you to go ahead and tape it together. I'm going to get you to go and cut along your pattern, and then just making sure you're using this cut line here. Once you have done that, you should have a pattern that looks like this. Go ahead and pin that one in place. Now you should have your scrunchie pattern cut out, and also your elastic, which is connected to either your safety pin or a bodkin. We're going to go ahead and flip this so pretty sides together, lining up those short sides. We're going to sew down here with a 1 centimeter seam allowance. So what that means is that you're lining it up on the 1 centimeter marking. So I'm going to get you to go ahead and do that now. And remember, always make sure to back stitch. I'm going to run it all the way along. And finishing with another back stitch. Bringing your needle up, moving your presser foot up, and there is just a little thread cutter off to the side of your machine. So now you should have something that looks like that. So I'm going to get you to cut those threads. And what you should be left with is a loop. I'm going to get you to pop this seam in the middle and then finger press the seam open. And what we're going to do is turn that one over, and then we're going to bring one side to the center, the other side to the center, and then we're going to flip that one over and line up this seam. And to make sure that lines up, I'll get you to pop a pin in there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to sew along here, starting just before this seam line, and we're going to go all the way around, making sure that you're only sewing through the 2 layers of fabric and you're creating a tunnel in the middle here. So I'm going to get you to take that to the sewing machine and we can sew it together. Remember, always back stitching, 2 to 3 stitches. When you come to the seam, I'm going to get you to remove that pin, that way it doesn't shoot out at you, and you're going to continue along. Remember following that 1 centimeter guide. Once you feel like you're getting to a point where you're going to sew that internal layer, I'm going to get you to grab onto it and then popping your hands at the top, and we're going to pull that through. So what this does is creates a tube. So then lining up only those 2 layers of fabric, the one at the bottom and the one at the top. Going through again with that 1 centimeter seam allowance. Sometimes people pull it through quite far and they get a little bit confused when they see this. All you have to do is get the top one and the bottom one, and then remember that that other part just gets tucked inside the middle, so keeping it out of the way. And if you use this hand over here to help guide your fabric, you'll be able to create straighter lines. So this hand brings tension, and this one helps to guide the fabric through. And if you're sitting at your machine and you're not sitting straight, you're always going to have a problem with trying to create straight seams because your view of what's straight is obscured. So you want to sit nice and straight in line with where you need to be. I'm going to go ahead and continue this scrunchie. Making sure I'm only sewing through the 2 layers of fabric. Once you're getting close to where you started, I want you to slow down a bit, and we're going to leave a turning hole. So what that means is instead of stopping where we started, we're going to stop a few centimeters before. So what we're going to use this for is to turn the scrunchie the right side out, so that the pretty side is the side that is facing outward. So we're going to leave probably about 5 centimeters open. Remember, always back tack at the end, bringing your needle all the way up and then pulling that one out and cutting it at the side. If your needle is part the way down or part the way working itself back up, you're always going to have a problem with pulling your project out from the machine, as the tension is stopping you from moving that fabric. So what you should have now is a big long tube with an opening. So there's the opening there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to get the safety pin or bodkin with the elastic, and we're going to go ahead and thread that through the tunnel. So always making sure that your elastic is not twisting as you go. Once you're all the way through, the trick with the elastic now is to make it come to a complete circle. So what you can do is you can tie it like this and double knot it, or you can grab the two tails together, pull it tight, and then do a wrap around your fingers and then pulling it through. This is my preferred method because it is less time consuming. So once you've done that, I want you to pull that super tight, and then you can cut the excess off. So now you should have something that looks a little like this. And now you're going to find out whether your turning hole that you left was big enough by how much you struggle to turn it through. So what we're going to do now is find that hole along the side, and we're going to start pulling out that pretty fabric portion in the center that you see. So there is a little bit of maneuvering, but it is quite easy to pull through. And if you get stuck on one side, you can then start pulling on the other side to help out. So now you should be left with something that looks like this. And now we're going to go ahead and find that turning hole. We're going to roll our seams to try and make this curve turn into a straight line. So when placing it under the machine, you want to place it like it's a straight line. And I notice a lot of beginners do struggle to work out where they did start and end. So a quick tip for you there is to pop a pin horizontally at the start, and another one just feeling for that section at the end. So you should have something that looks like this, and if you need a little bit more support on where that tube sits, you can also make sure it's lined up and pop a pin in vertically. So what you're left with is something like that. So now we're going to go ahead and place the start right under where that needle would sit. We're going to use the guide on the foot just here to run our fabric along to get a straight line. We're also going to use the settings up here to adjust where our needle sits to try and get it as close to the edge as we can without missing the fabric. So as you can see here, as I click it, it moves my needle over.
So I think I'm going to stop on a 6, and I'm going to use my flywheel to slowly bring the needle down just to check where the needle falls. I think it's a good positioning, so I'm going to stop it there, and I'm going to remove that pin out of the way so we don't snap it and get it stuck in our machine. So bringing that needle all the way down, we're going to start with a couple of stitches and then back stitching. When we stop, we always put our needle down, and then we're going to continue on. Slow and steady wins the race. And again, just with this needle, I'm going to show you, I'm using this guide on the plate right here, on the foot right here. So when my fabric goes in, it's always going to line up with that line. I'm just moving this pin and remembering where it came from. And continuing on to finish your stitch. Always remembering to do the back stitch. Needle up, press the foot up, pulling out, cutting your thread tails, and then we can go ahead and trim the thread on the outside. Give it a little fluff out. And there you have it. You've made a scrunchie.
If you found this video helpful, I would love it if you could give it a like and go ahead and hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.